Hello everyone, welcome to Sharmit. In this session, we are going to talk about another example related to template driven form where we will see the impact of touched and untouched. Okay, so by the end of this session, you will be able to understand like what would be the impact on touched and untouched when we are working with the input field. Okay, and if you remember in our last session we talked about the pristine and dirty. So this session is in the continuation of the same, where we will be specifically talking about the touched and untouched indicators. Like we will see how these boolean values get turned on, turned off. So these all things we will be covering in this particular session. But before we proceed further with the session, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released sessions first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow it sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic. Because for time being, we are just mainly focusing on how to use touched or untouched in template driven forms. Okay, and for the sequential content, you can refer the Sharmit digital coursebook, which is freely available in the description box. There you can find more than 3000 plus resources available in Hindi as well as English language. So as per your convenience, you can walk through it. Okay. Alright, so now we are good to go and start the session. Here currently we are in the app.component.html file, where I have mentioned two heading with one horizontal row. So first heading is showing Angular course by Sharmit, and the second heading shows template driven form example in Angular, checking touched and untouched example. Okay, now before we start this example, let's define or let's import the prerequisite thing. Okay, so to implement this demo, we will be creating one form. In that form, we will be using ngIf to generate the conditional statement. So to use these two things, we should import two things in app.component.html file. So this is the file, where in import section we will mention forms module and ngIf. Okay, always make sure that when you type forms module here and press enter, it will add this form module here as well. If it is not added, it won't work. Okay, so always make sure that it is added. Likewise for ngIf, it should be there. Okay, so forms module will help us to use ng form in HTML, and ngIf will help us to use the star ngIf to create the conditional statement. Okay, alright, so now we are good to go ahead. Here you can see we have added one horizontal row. So let me write the form here. So as per the requirement, what we are going to do, we are going to create one input field, a simple input field for username, and then on that username we will demonstrate like when the touched indicator will on and when the untouched will turn on. Okay, so usually what happen, like when a user touch the input field, in that case the touched indicator will get on, and by default it comes with a untouched state. But I think this thing would be much more clear if we demonstrate it with an example. So let's create that. Here I will write form, and in this form we will mention template reference variable, that is my form. Okay, and assign it with ng form. Okay, it should be inside this double quotes. So I will write here like this, ng form. Perfect. Now after this, what we will do, we will create one label. That label will help us to identify like what we are creating here. So here we are creating the field for username. Okay, so this is how we will write username. After that, what we will be doing, we will be creating one input field, and in this input field we will define all the required thing. Like firstly we will mention the type here. So for username we will be keep the type as text, so write text. Okay, then we will write the name here. In name we will mention username. Okay, then we will define here ng model. Also we will assign a template reference variable to this ng model. So just simply write here hash username ctrl. This is not always fixed, like you can define it with any name, but usually we go with this ctrl. If you are following the session, you know about that. So that is why like I opted for this. Okay, and after that we will assign here ng model. Perfect. So input field is ready. Now it's time to define the messages and also to define the values or the actual values of touched and untouched. So firstly we will define that values. So for that, let's add one paragraph here. In this paragraph we will mention strong, and in strong we will mention firstly the value for the touched, okay, or maybe touched value or untouched value. We will be adding it for both. So let's define it simply here. So you can simply mention here touched, and then after this we will add the colon, and after a colon we will put the value. So for value we will use double curly braces, username control dot touched, okay, and likewise we will add the second paragraph here, and this paragraph will help us to show the value of untouched. Here I'm using strong just to highlight it as a heading, okay, otherwise you can skip it. So untouched, and here the value of untouched. So for that, double curly braces, and in double curly braces we will mention username control dot untouched. Perfect. So this thing is ready. Now after this, what we will be doing, we will be showing the message, the conditional message. So for the conditional message we will use here star ngif, and here I'll mention if full name here, if username control dot touched, okay. So in case maybe we can firstly mention about untouched. If it is untouched, then we will show the message user has not visited the input field yet, okay. That means user hasn't user has not touched the input field or not visited the input field. Now similarly we will add the second paragraph, which will help us to show the message for the second condition. So here I will mention the condition using star ngif, and here I will write untouched, not untouched, username control dot untouched, okay, but this time we will put for touched. So touched, and in touched we will mention user clicked, touched, and blurred. Blurred means move away from the field, okay. So move away from the input field. So this is the second message. So let's say now I think by looking at this example it is clear like how it is working. So if user touched the input field, then in that case touch indicator will turn on and it will show the message user clicked and touched, and blurred which means move away from the input field, and for untouched it will show user has not visited the input field yet. So to verify this all thing, what we will do, we will write here ng serve -- open, enter. Just wait for a few seconds and then it will show you the output in the browser screen. Before that, let me add one horizontal row after this as well. Perfect. Yeah, so now it should show. Not sure why it is not opening. Let me close it again. ng serve -- open, enter. So we will wait for a few seconds and then it will show you the output in the browser screen. So from there, yes, now it is working fine. So here we can see firstly the main heading is there, that is Angular course by TechSharmit, then template driven form example in Angular, checking touched and untouched example. Then we have one horizontal row, username field, and this field we haven't touched yet, right? Which means we haven't clicked it here. So for now touched is false and untouched is true, because by default it is in untouched state. And also message highlighting that user has not visited the input field yet. But the moment when I click here, and after that if I click outside, you can see touched become true and untouched become false, because user clicked, touched and blurred away. Blurred away means move away from the input field. So this is how exactly these two things will work, touched and untouched. I'm sure like you are a bit confused if you are also comparing it with the pristine and dirty, but don't worry, like firstly individually we will learn about these things, and at the end I will summarize you the differences between all the states. Okay, but meanwhile you can do the practice, and if you have any question, queries or suggestion related to this session, you can reach out to me through comment section. I would be more than happy to answer your questions. Okay, so yeah, that's all for today. See you in the next session with new topics. So thank you for watching TechSharmit.